यस सर। चिदानंद जी, हर्षद पारेख सर आप स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं। अनम्यूट करें हर्षद पारेख सर।
अनम्यूट कर लें हर्षद जी।
Yes.
प्लीज गो अहेड,
Yeah.
प्लीज गो अहेड, प्लीज गो।
Okay. Good evening, friends. I am requested to give a little talk about the topic seeing is doing. Generally, I don't like to give a long talk because for that I have to prepare and I don't like to prepare. Generally, I like to speak whatever comes to my mind spontaneously. So today's topic is seeing is doing. And there's a similar sentence. Also, the Krishnamurti's sentence says perception is the action, which is same meaning. What it means is that there is no time interval between seeing something and taking the right action. Something like if we see with our eyes a snake on the road and we are walking, we don't step on it. So we can avoid the snake because we are able to see the snake on the road. But there are also snakes within our mind, and these snakes which are within us in the form of anger or fear, jealousy, loneliness, all these snakes which is in our mind can be seen only through the mind. And either we see through thinking or we see through what is called awareness. Generally, people, when they look within, they are mostly thinking. And that kind of looking with thinking is called intellectual understanding. And such a way of looking through thinking, it does not actually solve the problem of being free. Just like just now, I am remembering what Duryodhana said in Mahabharata. He said, I know what is dharma and what is adharma, but I cannot live according to the dharma. So he knew that what he was doing was not right, but he could not be free because it was only intellectual understanding. And there are many people, they are smoking or drinking. They know that it is harmful for the body. It can lead to cancer in future, but people cannot give up smoking or drinking because it is an intellectual seeing, not a real seeing. And the real seeing means seeing without thinking. It means the whole process from when a person is, if he's smoking, he can see himself opening a box, taking out a cigar, and then lighting it and putting it in his mouth and the smoke coming out. And he can feel the smoke going within in the lungs and how bad it is. He can see non-verbally. And when a person can see these things like smoking and drinking, one can be free if it's not intellectual understanding. And similarly, also it is true about being free from anger or fear or jealousy. When a person is really alert, then this kind of snake may come. And when it comes, one is awake to look at it when jealousy or anger has come. So it requires a kind of ongoing awareness of what is happening within us. And without this ongoing, effortless, motiveless awareness, when anger comes, we will not be able to see it. And then that anger can lead to many destructive actions. And sometimes people do a lot of damage either to their own body out of anger. And anger itself is damaging. It does damage the body. And sometimes the damage is done to the other person who is not doing what this person wants. And so when there is a perception, there is a action, immediate action, and one doesn't need to fight within oneself, like creating an opposite. Like if general idea is that if there is fear arising, you create opposite to fear is courage. Or if there is a violence arising, you practice non-violence. Then there is a duality, a conflict between what is and what should be. And that conflict is a waste of energy. So what is necessary is not to create non-violence, but see the violence when it is arising in the form of anger or ill feelings. So that seeing when it is arising, that seeing becomes an action, and then one doesn't need to create the opposite of like non-violence. Ideal like Mahatma Gandhi and many people in the past, they were projecting an ideal and try to follow the ideal. But in that, there is a waste of energy. And Krishnamurti has shown this looking or the perception. But then on the other hand, this perception is not easy. It is not that a person can decide to be awake or alert. And one needs a lot of looking within oneself. Initially, one may need to be alone and in a very nice environment, peaceful environment. And then one needs to be very curious and direct the attention inward, because generally our attention is outside and our mind also is thinking about the world and the problem of the world, politics or economics, or this problem of disease like corona. And our mind is thinking too much about the problems which are outside. But when or if a person is able to direct the attention inward and with a curiosity to look, and then when I tried to do that many years ago, I found that my mind was becoming very quiet, not anything coming. When you are very, very intensely uh, with all energy, look inward, then there is nothing, as if the thinking gets suppressed or not coming. And in that state of nothing coming, either a person gets frightened of that state in which there is no thinking, because no thinking means no sense of I. And it is like a psychological death. And that kind of psychological death is frightening for most people. And so we try to escape from our own mind, and we try to do something else, reading a book, watching a film, talking with somebody, reading a book, and so on. So I think that is the first step, is to look inward with uh, intense curiosity, motiveless curiosity, awareness, energy. And then there is a state in which thinking doesn't come, and a person feels the beauty of such a state, then you would like to do it again, because it is a wonderful state. That is a real meditation, when the mind is just looking and nothing happening in the mind. So in that, there is no wastage of energy. There is a kind of freshness. So in my life, such a thing happened, and then I became more and more interested in looking inward. And then there are some changes started happening in the body, in the brain, some a greater sensitivity. And then it began to affect also the way I looked at the trees or the clouds, nature, human being, colors. Everything begin to look very new, very fresh. So such a thing is possible in human beings. And one can say it is a new way of looking. Before, when we were looking, our mind was thinking too much. And so we did not see the beauty of a tree, or the beauty of a bird flying in the sky, or a star twinkling in the night sky. But when this awareness comes, then we begin to look at everything with a different eyes. It is not this physical eyes. It is through awareness we are looking at things outside, and that in that there is a real action. There is love, beauty, all these good things which Krishna ji is talking about is felt in such a way. Now, I like to tell you something about how do we do anything like listening to, say, Krishnamurti, or to a friend, or to one's wife or husband. What is the state in which we are listening? Generally, we listen to Krishnamurti with a great attention, and in that state of attention, we begin to understand what Krishnamurti is saying. And but then it doesn't last. Generally, people have come to Krishnaji and told him that while I am listening to you, everything looks very easy and I am able to understand. But when I go back to my normal daily activities, then that state of attention doesn't last. And then I am back into my old way of listening. So this has to, when a person becomes curious in listening, not only to Krishnamurti, but to himself and to other people, to friends, to people around, to politicians, then we can listen. And even I read Krishnamurti for 7 years, and his books helped me very much to look at nature, to listen, but it wasn't really a perfect listening. And only in 1979, that after 7 years, when I was listening to Krishnamurti in Ojai, California, I listened to him for the first time with perfect attention, without any effort. And before I used to listen to him and I used to feel tired at the end. But when I listen for the first time, in which there was no effort to understand him, and I could listen to other sounds coming from far, like children's playing, dogs barking. Then I understood what it means to listen without effort. So it may take maybe a long time. Krishnaji says it doesn't take a lot of time to understand. He says understanding is now, immediate. But that moment comes maybe after we have given lot of time and effort to look within. Now, in when Buddha got enlightenment, and he had also meditated, practiced, and one day he opened the eyes and he looked at the world with a different eyes. He looked at the morning star in a way which he had not looked before. And he knew that something had happened in his brain, in his body. And then only he went around to give talks. And the first time he talked with his 5 friends in Sarnath, and Buddha was describing his own understanding. And Buddha said that this understanding is not coming from knowledge. It is not coming from what he has learned from other people, but it was a direct insight in his own mind. And when Buddha was talking with his 5 friends, Buddha looked at Kondana and Buddha said, Kondana, you have got it. So while listening to Buddha, Kondana understood, because his listening was perfect listening without trying to understand what Buddha was saying, without trying to interpret. So maybe he was ready to listen in a way where what is communicated by one person, by the teacher, and what is received by the listener or by the disciple, there is no gap. What is communicated is what is understood. And in that, this listening becomes the action. So it is like seeing is doing, listening is doing. Okay, so I have said enough, and maybe Chidanandji would like to continue with this topic of seeing is doing, and then Milind sir will, and then it will be open. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Chidanandji, yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah, that
You will
was
be stay-
nice. You have covered some of
you will be staying today. Today you will be there.
I'll be there up to 7, 7:10.
7:10. Thank you. That's all.
7:10 I will leave.
Okay.
Right, sir.
Please continue.
Right. So this seeing is doing is one of the very powerful statements in Krishnaji's literature. In fact, I personally believe that not many understand the significance of this statement. Many who read Krishnaji's works or watch his videos or listen to his audios, I'm afraid, take this statement for having some poetic value and just move on. To me, this is one of the very important statements. In fact, it is a great commentary on human life. The way human beings live is so disorderly, and a statement like this, seeing is doing, has a bearing upon even the lives of those whom we regard as highly accomplished or eminent, dynamic, successful, and so on. Society looks at some people as successful or dynamic. For the society, with its own conditionings, has always a tendency to value quantity. The society tends to value the noise, the din, the roar, the size. If somebody has built a huge house, the society will not be late in looking at her or him as a very successful person. And if that man or lady, or for simplicity, let me say man, builds another big house within next 3 years, the society will quickly say, wow, what a man of action. For this confused, conditioned society, action is in terms of physical structures or bank balance and other external characteristics. Why talk about eminent people or famous people? Let us look at our own life and we can easily see that many a time we would have believed that we were very busy, very active, working hard, and so on. And one fine morning we realized that we actually were not doing anything really related to our fundamental problem. Like an example is cited in another parallel context. Somebody was climbing up a ladder so fast, so enthusiastically, so energetically. Everybody thought, wow, he is now going to reach where he wanted to reach. But then when he went to the top of the ladder, then it seems he looked and then looked down at other people and said, so sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that this ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. So it was not where he really wanted to go. But during the climb, he also felt on top of the world, and everybody or a lot of people envied him. Seeing his action, seeing his doing, or perception is action, has a tremendous significance in as much as a whole lot of so-called action on the part of humanity is no action at all. Therefore, it requires unbiased and, shall we say, looking with freedom, beginning with freedom, as it is said, to find out that a whole lot of action actually is inaction. Let me make it a little simple. In a corporate context, somebody was requested to examine the way a certain company was working. The CEO or the board of directors had requested an external agency to come and study the way the company was functioning, because the board of directors were very concerned how the company was running into losses. And in this humorous example, when that third party, neither the board of directors or the top management, nor all the people who were hired and were working at the company, these were the two parties, those who manage and those who are managed. But this third party, the agency which came and examined everything, gave a report, and then they said, we are very sorry to let the board of directors know that in this company, several hundreds of people who every day come on time and leave till the last minute, or work till the last minute and leave after the last minute of the day. We are very sorry to report that all of them are extremely busy, but they are busy with other things than what is required to be done. Very busy from morning to evening, but doing other things than what was required to be done, than what was aligned with the objectives of the company, and so on. That may make a sense in a more easy manner. But the human psychological field is much more complex than the mission statements or objectives of companies, and whether officers and employees work according to that mission statement, that vision, etc. For in the psychological domain of human life, people are highly conditioned to believe in number of things. What is right, what is wrong, they have their own beliefs. They judge others, they judge themselves. For example, parents who have, let's say, 3 children, judge, let's say, the second child as being lazy, as not working hard, and parents put tremendous pressure on that second child. The parents then say to the second child, who may be already 14-year-old now, Look at your older brother. Look at your younger sister, how they are working hard. Don't you think you should also work like that? And so on. You know to what extent of cruelty that kind of comparison, that kind of putting pressure on that so-called second child can go. Many of you who have seen the movie Tare Zameen Par saw certainly very dramatized version of the scenario. The parents, especially the father, simply did not accept that child who had certain disorder. He was a challenged child. For every one child that has been recognized as a challenged child, there are hundreds among us who are also different, who also are differently made by God or by nature or by whoever. But we are always under pressure from others to act in a certain way, to do things in a certain way, and to fall in line. And we too are under pressure, and those who put pressure upon us also feel very much pressurized to tell us what we must do. Friends, it's a very chaotic world in which we live. And the answer to this chaos is hidden in this apparently simple statement: seeing is doing. For a lot of so called talented people, people in high positions, people in responsible positions, CEOs, managing directors, directors of even educational institutions, hardly anybody is spared. Directors of probably some Krishnamurti centers too. We have no right or no reason to believe that just because they are at the helm of affairs of a J. Krishnamurti Education Center, they are free from conditionings. I am neither judging anybody nor am I sparing anybody. I am saying whole humanity is facing this issue of what Harshadji already very nicely said, the interference of thought in coming upon right action. Thought, or the so-called thinking process, has so many memories, so many past influences, so many rigid equations, so many notions of what's good and what's bad and so on, how things have to be. And I will say one more time, even secretaries or principals or directors, etc., of Krishnamurti Education Centers, very many times, it's human, I don't blame them. They go about their business with some rigid notions of how different teachers ought to be, how students ought to be, how the place has to be, how they have to be received, how they have to be treated, how they have to be respected, how they have to be maybe accommodated, and so on and so forth. So I'm trying to elaborate on what Harshadji gave as a sutra, the interference of thought. Where there is interference of thought, there is no perception. Truth takes a back seat. Truth gets clouded by our thought processes. Everywhere this happens. I believe during the British rule, especially in the early years, the British looked at India from, you may call it, Anglo-centric view, or there is a broader term, Eurocentric view. They would look at Asian culture, Asian civilization, Asian religions, in this Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever, from a Eurocentric view. I was told by somebody who once in Kolkata went to an old bookstore. This NRI living in California was on a visit to India and went to Kolkata, doesn't matter which city, and went to an old bookstore, and he chanced upon a book written by a British administrator somewhere in 1847, before even the mutiny, before even the East India Company handed over everything to the Queen of England. So when East India Company was ruling India, much of India, if not all India, right? So this Mr. Murthy, who said it to me, please bear with me, it may look like a little digression, but I tell you, this has much bearing on our topic this evening. So Mr. Murthy picked up that book. Wow, this is a book of 1847 written by a British officer who has shared his experiences. And let me read it. And he bought it and took it home. And he was horrified to notice, to read in that book, that this British officer had gone to places, heard some music concert in Kolkata, had watched some dance in Kolkata by Bengalis. And you know, in the 19th century, Bengal almost represented a lot of Indian culture. There was Indian culture everywhere, but Bengal was regarded later on in the following century, Tagore and others coming up. Bengalis believed that they were the cultural capital of India, which of course everybody else disputes. That's a different question. So this British officer, to complete the reference, wrote in his book that these Indians have no music at all. What they call music is some cacophony. They go on saying ah and so on. He didn't understand, Indian music. He wrote similar things about Indian dance. He wrote similar things about the so-called Vedic rituals and so on. This is devil is in action in India, he wrote, for something he noticed. Now, coming out of that example, that's what thought does. Thought makes us judge some person, judge some situation, judge some, functioning of some operation, some event. Thought makes us judge it in some way, and then we roll up our sleeves and then say, this is now time for action. My dear, you say it is time for action and you are rolling up your sleeves. Did you perceive properly? Did you see what was in front of your eyes properly? Or did you assess it, influenced by your conditionings? European conditionings or South Indian conditionings, Russian or Chinese, in varieties of ways, we, out of our memories, that is called thought, look at things through our conditionings. Therefore, while drawing to a conclusion, my comments, I would say that this statement, seeing is doing, is a tremendous warning to all of us. Don't get just busy with doing things. From morning to evening, trying to do things with a list of tasks. Okay, I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to do that first, and oh, time is running out, and that's how human life sometimes proceeds. Well, nobody is saying you sit back and relax and live a lazy life. That would be going from one to the opposite. Krishnaji's teachings never, permit us to go from one disorder to the opposite disorder. So the issue is, are we active without right understanding? So we must pause and proceed. We must take a second look at our very basic convictions. What seems to be action individually, or what seems to be tremendous dynamism in a so-called developed country like United States might be actually not true action at all. It is like in my college days, we had a football field, and once we requested our friends from a neighboring college who wanted to do some voluntary service to come and clean our football field where there were little pebbles and stones and so on. And they came on Sunday morning, some 20 of them. And for 3 or 4 hours, they worked on our football field. And we were very appreciative. They went away. I was not much involved, but in the evening, I asked my college football captain. So were those boys helpful who came from another college and did all this service? My football captain said, "Oh, my friend, they came and they did remove all the pebbles." And his English was a little, dramatic. He said, they removed pebbles but left behind craters. Crater, big pits they made. I believe they came with shoes and so on, and as they moved about and whatever they did, lot of pits got created on the football field. So with Russia and USSR, with China and some other so-called, strong country, you and I need to examine, are they removing pebbles but leaving behind craters or leaving behind big pits? Or lastly, let's ask ourselves, are we really helping anybody or are we creating more disorder in the lives of others and in our own life? Therefore, this is a clarion call for examining action very deeply, and that requires standing apart from this conditioned thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Milind More, sir, please. But before going, I will be talking to you, Chidanandji, sir.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Very
Am I
well.
audible? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
So thank you to Swami Chidanandji and Harshadji for touching this very difficult topic, though apparently it looks very simple in a way, but it is very difficult. And I have been also exploring this question for some time through, of course, through our daily activities. And at one point, one realizes that the daily activities, if one tries to see this, there are certain limitations. So maybe what I can share is some of what I have seen, especially in a school like scenario with the children. Some of the experiences where this particular thing is doing may reveal something. So one experience was, when I joined the school, we had started with this rural outreach program wherein we used to take children to the Zilla Parishad schools for teaching. So initially, you see, there would be a lot of questions thrown at me by our students about the food in the dining hall. You see, I am also, as part of my job, responsible for the food in dining hall, and initial cultural classes were only talking about food, and I used to wonder, at times that is that all is about culture. And then we went to this rural school where the midday meal scheme was being served. And it just happened that the time which was given to us by the school happened to be around the midday meal scheme. And then our children started serving and also, tasting the food there. Now, the midday meal scheme, as we all know, is only basic food, dal and chawal. And the children could sense that immediately, that compared to what we are offering at school and what the children are getting in a Zilla Parishad school, there is so much of a difference. And when we came back after this experience, they asked me, sir, how can they survive with something as little as that when as compared to what we are eating? And I didn't say anything. I said, see, that is a fact. And believe me that after those visits, in our cultural classes, none of the children asked me anything about the school dining hall, about any complaints about the food. So they saw something, and something acted on them, which perhaps led to, I would say in this case, a non-action rather, or rather stop asking any questions about the food that they are getting at school. That was something which I kind of noticed, but we just kept silent about it, and we went about doing our work. Similar experiences I can touch upon is at school level, we have our own system of, for example, monitoring our electrical consumption. Now, most of our children in our school come from well-to-do families where you see aspects of water, electricity, waste, food are looked in a certain way, and which could be further explored in a school like ours. So one was, as I was mentioning about the electrical consumption, where you can actually monitor your electrical consumption on a day-to-day basis in the dorm which you're living. And so I had given a certain format, and I asked them to check it on a daily basis, and if something reveals, we'll discuss about it. And yes, many of the students came back. They calculated the number of units which were happening. They monitored from the energy meter as to what were they reading, and they could see the difference. And then slowly it led to kind of, the question led closer to them in terms of their own personal habits. Am I switching off the fan in time or not? Am I switching off the electrical geyser while leaving the dorm or not? Or how much electrical consumption was happening, and so on and so forth. So there are a number of questions, and which basically led us to discuss about our own personal habits, basically coming closer to my own relationship with electricity, coming to my close relationship with water, for example, or coming to my closer relationship with waste that I generate. Now I'm talking about different systems that we have gone about looking at in the school. We have a self-managed waste management system where nobody goes to anybody's house or dorm to collect waste. Everyone is responsible for collecting their waste and putting it at a central point, which basically, forces everyone to look at their own waste. Now, which obviously generates questions about how much waste I'm generating and how much I'm consuming therefore. So again, it is a certain type of seeing which is revealing about themselves. And then there are questions which are emerging, which children are able to see it much closely. And at times I feel that there is no need to answer any of those questions, and we just ask them to just observe themselves. And similar thing we observe in, for example, in a farming areas where children can actually experiment with, say, chemical-based farming or natural farming methods, or children can experiment between hybrid seeds and naturally grown seeds. And they can actually grow the seeds. They can do the sowing, they can harvest, and after harvesting, they can cook in the dining hall and then eat it. So there is a certain cycle which gets kind of touched upon in a very sensual way, in a very sensorial way, which is again closer to one's body and senses. And here again, I have seen with a certain sharing and talk, some of the teachers are able to generate a sense of seeing, which directly related to your own self. So these are some of the examples which I felt that I have seen it at a school level with the children. These are nothing very extraordinary. We all experience as adults. We have experienced that in our childhood, such things. But somehow, as we grow older, all these understandings and all the seeing kind of get merged with the whole social processes, economic processes, the socio-economic processes and so on, and the way the system is today. And the whole meaning is lost, and one tends to then get carried away with the system. And that's where the question emerges, that whether the seeing is doing at at a young age, having seen it on the innocent faces of the children at school, when it kind of takes a different direction, then what is it the limiting factor? And I think the limiting factor is what precisely Chidanandji and Harshaji pointed out about the aspect of thought. And that is where the importance of understanding the nature of thought processes, understanding the aspect that you see, as I see the seeing, the learning, the observing, the experiencing, meditating, aren't they all the same things? And somewhere are we not, we without these links? And as Swamiji also said, you know, an example of about comparison. The question is, isn't then the comparison at the root of ignorance of how we go about things? Isn't the aspect of becoming, which Krishnaji has pointed out, actually takes us away from being with the fact? You see, the whole sense of becoming, the whole sense of achieving, the whole sense of success, kind of, these are the social processes. I mean, they take us away from what is the fact. Of course, Krishnaji has also pointed out that aspects of, you know, so-called corridors of opposites between, you know, why we like certain things and why we dislike certain things. The aspect of pleasure and pain, the aspect of right and wrong. And of course, all, I think this is in a way linked to the aspect of, you know, the divisions that we observe within ourselves, vis-a-vis the world around us, the people around us. And this division, is it not at the root of not being able to see certain things which we are so easily able to see as children, as a child? So somewhere something goes wrong. And I think in a way, as Chidanandji sir also pointed out, that it's a very difficult thing to see. And my understanding is, I think, lies in understanding what Krishnaji has talked about inside. Krishnaji has talked about the emptiness, the loneliness, and, you know, the nothingness part of it. Unless one kind of goes, makes an effort to understand those aspects, seeing is doing just gets limited at the physical and the material level. But I think what Krishnaji is hinting, or what Krishnaji is pointing out, is something beyond that, beyond our own unconditioning, or, you know, overcoming not overcoming, but beyond seeing our unconditioning. Maybe once that seeing starts happening, this one may come to a state where seeing is doing. So this is how I perceive this as of now, given my own experiences of seeing it with the children in the recent past, last few years, and exploring this question of how does a child understand, how does a child see, to how does an adult understand this. And it is quite apparent to me that that there is a need to do a lot of unconditioning before one can touch upon that. I think today's state of the world is saying so. What Corona has done to the world today indicates that. In fact, today being the Earth Day, I received a message saying that you know, human is the virus and Corona is the vaccine. You know, we have come to this understanding now, and I think it throws some light as to what we have done to the earth around, what we have done with our relationships with people around, what we have done with our relationships with whatever that we have created, and there is a need to strongly question that. I think I'll stop with that. Maybe we could discuss it further. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Dinesh Wagmare, please go ahead with your inquiry. Dinesh Wagmare, please unmute and go ahead.
Sir, I want to ask all the panelists, Harshad sir, Milind sir, and Chidananji sir. This action, seeing is doing, will it be individualistic? Suppose there are three persons, they are seeing the same situation. So will the action will be same or will the action will be different? So what is the basic criteria
Yeah.
for seeing or doing? Seeing is doing and perception is action. So I request Chidananji first because he has to go. So what are his
Yeah,
views
yeah.
first? Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, that is fine too. Yes, yes. The actions on the part of the three people need not be the same, especially if you are considering what A has to do, what B has to do, and what C has to do. So, if you consider collective action, and from that point of view, a collective action, if A, B, and C, all three are free from any bias, the collective action that they will propose will be the same, unless some unseen factor comes into the picture. But individual action also brings into the picture what that person's situation is individually, because I cannot do what Harshad ji can do. I cannot do what Milind ji can do. All of us have our personalities. So everybody acts as per one's ability, as per one's skills, as per one's bank balance. One may not have the same bandwidth as another person. So the actual action doesn't have to be identical, but there is a flavor of being free from bias. That is all.
So this statement, it automatically means that it becomes an individual statement and it becomes a conditional statement as far as the individual personality is concerned.
Conditioned, how, in what way conditioned?
Because everybody's personality is different. So automatically the conditions of the
No.
individual personality or individuality comes into picture.
No. See, conditioning is a psychological issue, whereas personality is a factual issue. For example, a short man has certain capacities. He is, let's say, playing basketball. A short man cannot play the same way as a tall man. And there is no conditioning there. It is a physical factor. But fear or jealousy or some kind of in image consciousness, those are psychological. We are talking of conditionings more in the psychological domain.
May I interfere, sir?
Please do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Sir, we are proposing on 6th May topic psychological simplicity. Would you please agreeing on this, sir? Chidananji will start it. Will speak for 40 minutes and then others. May I keep it, sir? May 6.
May 6, I am available.
Yeah, I am clearing it. May 6.
Next Thursday, I am not available.
Yeah.
Fine.
That I got it, sir. So, Harshad sir, may I take it?
Okay. Okay.
Thanks. Milind More sir, I am taking it. Thank you. Sorry to disturb in between. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So it means we are only talking
after Wagmare, Anand Ramgod, Anand sir will take.
Okay. So it means that we are talking of only psychological conditioning, which is coming in between, not the other.
Yeah.
Then thought will be coming into picture, considering other conditionings, which are not psychological. Those are to be considered.
I submit that in these discussions, when we use the word thought, it is psychological thought. See,
Sorry, there is disturbance at my end, so I am muting. Sorry, there is a disturbance at my end.
Okay.
Anand sir, please go ahead. Anand sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before, I make my observations, I just wanted to say that when India, the so-called India, when it was in copper age, the Europe was in stone age. So a person who comes from there and talks about Indian culture, they still haven't understood what we are. Most of the history what we read today is written by the Western people. Now, it's been for maybe for the last 10, 15 years, they're going back to Upanishads to find out the history of humanity. That is what it is. And most of the time, we don't have to really bother about what the white person talks about us. Like I said, when we are copper age, they were in stone age. And so that is what it is. And the other thing, sir, the point is when we see perception action, the point, I'm not talking about others, sir, I'm talking about you and me here. So the point is, I don't want to see, because to see the truth is very painful. We say seeing is action, and I say, yes, I want to see, or I'm looking, but the fact is that I don't want to see the truth. It is, I don't want to be disturbed from my comfort zone. Can I observe? That is the question, sir. Not, all the time talking about becoming state, or I should watch that, I should see that, I should understand that. Again, how do I understand? This is again my observation, sir. I keep condemning meeting after meeting. I condemn my thought, I condemn my anger, I condemn everything. I call it a snake. Can I see when I condemn, is there any understanding? When I call it a snake, I'm condemning it. In fact, our Mr. Murray did talk about, humans are the virus and corona is the vaccine. That is a fact. We're killing billions and billions of animals every year. Species every day, 100 to 200 species are being wiped off from this beautiful earth, which Kay had spoken most of his meat talks. And when I talk about smoking and drinking, yes, they're poisonous. The bigger poison is the milk. Please, we have to do research on milk and milk products and find out the kind of damage it is causing to you and me, to our children and the planet Earth. We have to look into that, sir. Do the research, sir. Repeating the same old thing from what I did it 20, 30, 40 years back, it's of no use. Can I find out what is happening today at this point in time? And most of our talks, we are repeating the same thing. It is nothing different. I don't see anything different in our talks at all. Week after week, it is the same thing we're talking about. I don't find any change, any difference. Over, sir.
Okay. Nobody can change us if we are in our comfort zone, as you are saying, and we don't want to change, then nobody can do it. And real.
Sir, that is not my point, sir. That's not my point at all. Like
you said comfort zone.
We are talking about, the others. The moment I talk about others, we're talking about the society. We're not talking. If I listen to Kay, sir, Kay said, the human being has to change. I'm not saying the individual. Human being has to change to bring about that mutation or transformation. So it is not about me, not what I'm seeing. It is you and me. I'm saying once again, it's that when I speak, let it be me. Krishnamurti had insight and he spoke from the inside. Now, after reading 7 years, and then it took me some time to understand what Kay is saying, it's in time. Kay said that is not of time. He's talking about something which is not of time, sir. Please forgive me for saying that. Yeah, if the moment I say I know what Kay spoke about, I can watch, I can see, I can perceive, then I'm caught in a bigger illusion, isn't it so? It's my question. It is not having comfort in my life. There is going to be problems in life. How do I understand this problem? It is not that to eliminate the problems. You cannot eliminate. As long as you and me are there, problem will be there. It cannot be eliminated. So, can I understand the problem is what it is? It's not that when there's a problem, I don't have any problem. I have to go through it. Yes, sir.
Okay. So all these problems of this violence, from where do they come? Or fear or anger? What is the source? And that is what Krishnamurti is talking about.
That's precisely what I'm saying. It's you and me.
Hmm. Yeah, but where is the source?
Krishnamurti, please forgive me, sir. Krishnamurti also said when he was speaking, he said, don't listen to me. You're not listening to me. Every time I
Yeah.
quote Krishnamurti, I say, Krishnamurti says this. And again, I say, don't listen to Krishnamurti. Can I see my own contradictions is the question, sir. Again, when perception seeing means, I look at things, I see. And there is no space, there's no distance, there's only emptiness, and there's the energy in it. That is what perception is. The moment I react, the moment I say something, I'm back to my conditioning. Isn't it so, sir?
Yes, how do we do anything is very important. How do we listen? Like I gave the example of Kondana. He listened with perfect attention and he got it very quickly, what Buddha was saying. Similarly, when we listen not only to Krishnamurti, but even our own mind, why it is chattering, why it is going so fast, is it not possible to really calm down and look and really be free from thinking? In that, then we don't need Krishnamurti. Initially, we may need, and because we are having this dialogue by J. Krishnamurti group, we are talking about Krishnamurti. Otherwise, we can talk about our own self and how we do anything. Like when I ask student in the class, bring that chair or table from there to here. Now, how the student does, if he is really aware, he will lift it very gently and bring it where I am. But if he's not careful, he will slide it, make it very screeching sound. So whatever is in our mind, it expresses in our action. So if there is a violence within, it will express in society, in everything what we do. And that is the real problem, is understanding, looking within ourselves, what is going on. And it requires, it's like we don't need to read any book also. Initially we may need, but once we know how to look, then we have all the time, any day, any time, we can sit quietly and look. So finally, it depends on us. And about one example which I want to give is about a man, a European. He interviewed Krishnamurti in 1930s, and he wrote a book called God is My Adventure. And that man called Rom Lando, he had a habit of smoking. And he did not discuss with Krishnaji anything about smoking. But after two dialogues with Krishnaji, not about smoking, he felt that he could not smoke. So there is a dropping of some habits without any effort. It is possible for human beings. So it depends on how do we listen, how do we speak, how do we look, and that is what Krishnaji was talking about our daily life. How do we do? Problems are there, humanity problems. For thousands of years, human beings have been killing other human beings. But individually, is it possible for me to look within and be free from the violence, from bad feelings, from anything which creates unhappiness? So this is the challenge to all human beings, whether they read Krishnamurti or not. They can read somebody else, Upanishad or Zen. They are all telling about how to live with happiness, love, beauty, and what is it that is interfering in this way of living. And Krishnamurti tells something which is very beautiful if people can understand, but many people don't understand because he doesn't give anything. He just pointing out certain things, and then it is up to the human being whether he is able to look within himself. Okay, so how we
So this
respond?
understanding is me, sir, not what Krishnamurti says and how I understand. It's a completely different how others understand it. I mean, I don't have to look into it. It is myself. And the moment when I say the other person is violent, sir, then that violence in me is observing the violence out there. How does one understand that also, sir? And every time, even when we talk about drinking or smoking, Krishnamurti also was a human being, sir. He has done a lot of mistakes. They say okay. I mean, it's not that he was not a human being. He has done certain mistakes. I mean, he may have said certain things which wouldn't have made a lot of sense. But I can't hold that and talk about it. When we're talking about the danger, when I say that I see the danger, I'm questioning that danger, sir. When I talk about the milk, the example we're given of the snake was given of the smoking and drinking and what else? And what changes? And when I say I have looked after so many years, I'm questioning all that, sir. When I'm 70 to 75% of the Indian recent Times of India report says are lactose intolerant, and we still drink milk. We still consume milk products. Our paneer, our chocolates, all our sweets are made out of milk. Our bread, cheese, butter, milk, curds, everything. And I can't see that. Then I'm talking about something else. No, when I say I have changed or I have seen, I'm saying why that I don't see this. When I say this is beautiful and this is ugly, I'm back to my conditioning. When I say why it is that I don't want to go back to it, sir. But again, seeing beauty and ugly.
Yeah.
The moment I say that, it is again it's a problem. Like I said, when in seeing there is space, there is a quietness, there is an emptiness, and that is the energy that is there. That's all there is. The moment I say how lovely it is, I'm back to my conditioning. Or how ugly it is, I'm back to my conditioning. And also how to understand when I say inaction is total action. So it is extremely challenging. I mean, I can interpret, I can give meaning to it, but that is not the point, isn't it? So understanding it itself is action, isn't it? I'm sorry, sir. Okay, over.
Okay. Sir, let Parikh sir reply it, please.
Yeah. It's like if I react, if somebody says,
if Krishnamurti has mistaken, Parikh sir may mistake. Mr. Gautam can also mistake. So please continue. No problem in doing mistake.
Yes. Krishna ji also liked milk products, eggs also. So you don't like that when I say
sir,
that.
that is not true, sir. That is not true. I mean, that person wrote in his book also. I mean, his cook wrote in his book, he never took ice creams or other things. He went for fruit salad. You keep insisting he used to take milk and milk products. Fine. That is okay. We didn't have that kind of a problem then. Today we are having the problem. The planet is dying because of that. Let's talk about it. I said Krishnamurti had his own witnesses. Fine. So just because Krishnamurti drinks milk and Krishnamurti did something else, you want me to do the same? I should do also the same thing? Is that the wisdom of mine?
There are better, deeper problems than drinking of milk. It is not.
Sir, you please do the
life.
research, sir. Today is the Earth Day, sir. I mean, today is the Earth Day. There's a lot of things on it. We should go through it, sir. We are in the past. I think we should be in the present, sir. Please. I think we should be in the present. We should know what's happening to the planet.
I think
Earth.
our subject is seeing
sir,
is
let
doing.
him,
Let us stick to it, sir. Anand, please stick to the subject. That will be better.
Yeah, please.
Sir, my question is.
Let him unearth him. This is the Earth Day. Let Harshad Parikh unearth the truth. Let him unearth the truth. Please, Asad Parik sir, go ahead.
Yes, I think everything depends on what is our mind generally looks outside and say humanity is like this problem, that problem. There are millions of problems, there are billions of people. And if we just look that way, we will remain with our problems. But is it possible to be free from all that burden which we carry in our daily life? And it is possible to be free, not carrying the burden of humanity in my head, but do something which I can do. But first, I have to be free. If I am confused, whatever I do will create more confusion. This is logical. So the real question is, have I got some clarity about what is happening within me, how I get carried away by emotions, by ideas, by ideals? And that looking is the doing. So we cannot ask other human beings to stop this or that violence. Even Mahatma Gandhi could not stop human beings, Hindus and Muslims, from killing each other, though he tried to practice non-violence. And he tried very hard, and he got tired at the end of his life. So we cannot think about humanity and the problems. It has been there for thousands of years. It will continue the problem, and maybe who knows whether we will survive or not after 50 years or so. So how we live in the present moment, how we do anything is very important. Okay, Pradeep ji, do you want to say?
May I? Is it audible, sir?
Yes,
Yeah, it is
audible?
audible. It is always audible. No problem. Go on. Please go on.
After listening to all of you patiently and with quite of attention, I find that there is no ideal seeing or ideal listening. There cannot be. And as Dinesh said, there is a lot of individuality involved in seeing and listening both because of our conditionings. This is a fact. That's why, in spite of so many sutras, aphorisms, so many gurus, things have gone worsened. In spite of all that is what we think is known to us. And moreover, I can't force anyone to become a vegan. As Anandji was talking a lot about it, as if one person can change the entire living scenario in the cosmos. Cannot. But the best I can do is whether I can see what am I eating, how am I eating, what is the state of my consciousness when I am eating, how do I get proper sleep or not. This immediately these things give you dividends. So nobody can force anyone to see in a particular way. So many things, so many people have written so much about pollution, about violence and killing and extinction of species and so many things. Everything is known as knowledge if someone wants to consult, because my sensitivity is whether we want to see it. So my sensitivity is virtually decides everything that I do, that I do and see. Even seeing is Of course, everything shows that seeing is the crux, seeing is the point, and then automatically action follows. So this is, you can't force anyone to see in a particular way. So there is no ideal seeing or listening. That's why that status quo maintained, rather getting worse every day. Our living conditions, including bacterial load in my alimentary canal, and then virus all around us mutating so fast, beautifully. Nothing is in my control. But at best, I can control my microclimate around me and in my group, and telling them, look, friends, I have enjoyed it, you too can enjoy it. This is the best I can say is, and we do it regularly, that look, this has helped me, now you can try. I have tried on myself, like Hahnemann, who tried everything on himself for homeopathy, and then I share with you. So this is, individuality has its role. Idealism doesn't work. There is no ideal, because there was never an ideal time. In history, if you see, right from Rama age or imaginary, whatever it is, Christ or whatever is Buddha, the sorrow was always associated with it. That's why everybody talked about this. So there was never an ideal situation for living. Aurobindo talked about so much about mutation of consciousness. Krishnamurti ji talked about transformation of consciousness. Everybody is trying to find the way out. But what has happened is what has happened to me, in me, around me. This is a reality which I can feel. But if I want that this whole thing become Ram Rajya, or the whole thing becomes what I think is Ram Rajya, it's impossible. It was never there. It will never be there. So the Ram Rajya, or whatever, the Krishna consciousness within me is always within me, and it gives dividends, provided I listen to myself carefully. I give heed to all these things, everything, what I see and what happens when I see. Why do I see? So seeing is that, there is whole of literature, Zen, seeing beyond seeing. You see? So these things are there, and it comes back to me. Me means me, Pradeep, not even my family members. They may not agree to it. They may discuss about it. So this is that individualistic. But if whatever I see and I do accordingly, and people get benefited around me, and the atmosphere becomes livable, vital, full of energy, then people automatically will do it. This is what my experience is. I'm daily doing gardening, this and that and that and that. My entire profession was biological research. I was in research for 45 years. I have been with plants only. And my hobby is photography. So seeing is very important for me. And images are that important for me. But what images do to my psyche, that also I know. So one has to understand the beauty of what seeing is actually. And everybody sees that. Everybody has that faculty, except of course those people who unfortunately cannot see it. But seeing is the first thing when the world enters in me. This is how the world enters me. Although it enters through all the pores in my body, my entire body. Jean-Paul Sartre said, the entire world pervades through me. So how they can talk like this? Because it is that we are not solid. How gases enter, how this energy energy exchanges are there, what chemicals, everything is there. I am taking a lot of time. I shouldn't take, but this is what I wanted to say.
As a family member, I wanted to say it is 7:31. So let Milind More conclude and finish it. But Indore circle people
Sir.
will be. I have to talk
Sir,
to them.
sir, before that, I just want one thing to ask Mr. Harsha sir. That do we then conclude that this is an individualistic referential statement that Singh is doing?
Conclusion.
Sir,
Conclude with?
The question,
Yes, I mean,
Harsha,
can we have this understanding as a common, or
no.
you have to say
Harsha.
something?
Sir,
Yeah.
the question is
Harsha
for whom, sir?
Harshad Parikh sir, please,
Yeah.
please conclude
Yeah.
it. No
Yeah.
question, no answer. Because
Yeah.
you will be coming in the next Thursday and then
Yeah.
another Thursday, we will discuss that. I will have to discuss Indore people after this meeting. So all speakers can leave after your conclusion given in a minute.
Okay.
Plus,
Yes.
bear with me, Anand sir, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hmm.
So do I conclude? Yes. What we understand from Krishnamurti or any other teacher, it depends on our own passion and curiosity to look inward. So Krishnamurti is addressing to the individual. And another thing which is not Krishnamurti, this is from my own observation, is that our body and mind, they are limited in many ways,
Yes.
like our way of what the light which we see, which is the electromagnetic wave, only very little small band of frequency which we are able to see. There are many things which unknown to us. So what is known to us is very little. And so we should not become very proud of our understanding that we know everything and we can change the world. It's not like that. This whole earth is a very tiny planet in the universe, and there are 7 billion people, each one thinking in a different way. So ultimately, it depends on us how we look at our own self and whether we have the ability to listen to our own self, other people who may have a different view, whether we can listen to them, not react, not get carried away by emotions, and listen whatever we can. So I have concluded. Thank
Sir.
you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
I
you, sir.
wanted to
Thank you.
request you, what does understanding mean? Is a lecture given by Gautam on Sunday at 9 a.m. So you are requested to attend that. What does
Thank you.
understanding mean? He's a good orator from Pathshala. Everybody present here is requested to attend that. Now, other than Indore, people can leave, and I have to discuss with Indore JK circle only. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha sir.
Thank you.
रिकॉर्डिंग बंद करूं सर?
हाँ,
रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर दे मेरे ख्याल।
रिकॉर्डिंग भी हो जाएगी तो क्या गलत है कुछ? अपन जो भी
वो
बात
उसमें
करेंगे